with what's been happening with the land expropriation movement is that more and more people are getting more ramped up and are wanting to start implementing things. For example, ANC is moving ahead and they are going to be expropriating 139 properties without compensation in order to test the Constitution and see if the Constitution actually does allow for that as it is now, or if it needs to be changed in order to accommodate expropriation without compensation. So at the moment it seems like there are approaches to target properties that are in disuse, properties that are standing vacant. However, no one actually knows yet because they've been very unclear about the policy that they're going to be following. They're saying that these actions they're taking to expropriate these particular properties, they hope will clarify the policy and the approach that they're going to be taking. Another interesting thing that's been happening and that we might grow in prevalence is the use of militant forces. There is a particular militant group that's called Mkhonto Wesizwe, and it's now been on 2 occasions that I'm aware of where they have imposed themselves in matters that are not part of their actual group. So the first occurrence was where they essentially shut down I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was the magistrates' court of one of the big cities in KwaZulu-Natal, and they made certain demands, such as I think it was better benefits for war vets and things like that, army veterans. And essentially, when I say they took over, I mean they literally went in there and didn't let anyone do any work. They prevented any business activities from taking place there, and they demanded an audience with someone high enough to fulfill their requests, or rather their demands. Now, the more recent event has been, there is a particular property that has a years-long battle in terms of ownership and with particular land claimants there. There's 2 different groups involved. Don't need to get into the details of it because that's not relevant to this particular video. What I do want to go into is that things came to a head recently, and land has been cleared illegally, as the legal issue hasn't been settled yet. But the same militant group now is occupying that property and not allowing anyone to come on or leave. They apparently were brandishing automatic firearms, which are illegal to have except for very specific circumstances, and they were pointing firearms at people who were there in a meeting, stakeholders and things like that. They were actually pointing firearms at people, and eventually everyone was forced to leave the property except for the Mkhonto Wesizwe members. And it's unclear as to who specifically they're supporting, why they're there. The fact of the matter is that they are there, and they are imposing themselves in a very forceful manner. So I'm not going to go into who is at fault and what should happen, what shouldn't happen. What I want to do is focus on looking at the practical aspects of, okay, what's happening now and what might happen, what has been happening that might escalate. So in this particular regard, there is very potentially enough support within the community of individuals who are supporting land expropriation without compensation in such a way that they haven't actually been considering all the elements involved, meaning that for them, land expropriation without compensation is a cure-all for all of the issues that they are experiencing in their lives and that other people experience in their lives, such as poverty, ineffective healthcare access, poor education, lack of opportunities in the job market. There are enough people who are highly emotional about the state of the issues happening, highly emotional about who's to blame for it, to the degree that it's entirely possible that we might see events like military groups performing coups or forcibly displacing people in order to achieve their particular goals, such as claiming land. And now, what I've said before in previous videos in this matter is that land expropriation or land redistribution as a principle has the potential to do a lot of good. However, it is absolutely not a cure-all. It is not going to solve all the issues that a place like South Africa faces. There is massive inequality here. However, land is not the cause of that. The people are the cause of that. The way that the economy functions because of how people function within it. The way that the government functions because of how people function within it. It is individuals who are collectively part of a dysfunctional system simply because the individuals are operating in a dysfunctional manner that promotes things like self-interest, exploitation of others for personal gain, simply not caring about other people in the execution of their duties. So even that is only part of the problem, because the issues we face in South Africa can be seen in a lot of other countries, maybe not in exactly the same way, but it's the same issues. It's different contexts. The core points are the same. So ideally what we need is a more global approach and a more global understanding that it's people who create the problems, people who create the systems that are dysfunctional. It is the way that people behave within the system that makes it dysfunctional. Solutions are available to us and have even been outlined. For example, the Constitution of South Africa, the Bill of Rights, has extremely good rights that are given to all people on paper. It's not implemented. And you can't blame that on the Constitution. It's the people who are responsible for implementing it, meaning every single person who's here, who needs to give these rights to everyone around them and to continue to promote the understanding that everyone deserves these rights and that money shouldn't be a factor, and that corruption is something that is not an institutional issue, it's a human issue. And that's one of the primary reasons that all of these very good foundational structures and systems that are designed in South Africa do not actually function in practice, because the people who are supposed to be implementing them are not doing that, or they're not doing it in a way where it's actually going to be functional. So the solution always comes back to change humanity, change human nature, make people better, and from that the system will become better. We will start giving to each other more. We will start ensuring that every single person gets good health care, because every single person has the right to receive it. And money no longer becomes the reason why one person has access to a good doctor and another person has access to a bad nurse. There's a lot more that could be said on this entire topic. We could probably go on for days and days and days. But for now, that's a little update and a little bit of my perspective. There is a lot more to it. So don't take this as the entirety of my views or the entirety of what is going on. Because, again, there is so much more happening at the moment. There's so much that needs to be taken into consideration. This is just a very basic overview of a very few points within the bigger picture. So I look forward to continuing with a very objective assessment of events and see how this goes. Thank you very much for watching. You'll see me next time.